Hey, the Aravosis Report. John Aravosis here to talk about the latest news from Ukraine. Let me get TikTok going here on my iPad. I've got you guys here and TikTok over there. And then we will start shortly. There's my TikTokers. Mirror. Boom. There we go. Anyway, how's everybody doing? I'm in Chicago as always for the month. Oh, it's weird having a different chair. My back hurts. But I'll be here until New Year's. So visiting Ma in the frigid weather. It's as cold here as it gets in DC at its worst. Hello, TikTokers. Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing? YouTubers, Twitchers, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. I think that's it. Oh, that's not true. Also, there may even be some people from Mastodon coming as well. I forgot. I'm sharing this on Mastodon now, too. The Twitter alternative. I know they don't like to call themselves that, but they kind of are. Well, they've become that at least. Anyway, hey, guys. Hello, all. As always, maybe we'll go for a quick minute, have you guys say where you're all from, which is kind of nice. And then when TikTok hits the magic number, like usually when TikTok hits about 900 or 1,000 people, I then start the show. Just back from the dentist. Sorry. Anyway. But yeah, so things are pretty good here. As I said, I'll start anyway. I'm John Aravosis. This is the Aravosis Report. This is my daily show, Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, where I talk about the latest news from Ukraine. As always, if you've got questions second half of the show will be Q&A. First half of the show, I will go over the news of the day, tell you what I think is important and why it's important. And then second half of the show, I will take your questions on TikTok. Enter the questions via the Q&A link that is in my profile. The rest of you obviously can use the comment box at the bottom. I am independent media. I am doing this for free. The only salary I've been getting has been from you guys, and I'm trying to make this work. So I appreciate your gifts because your gifts help keep me going. So please keep the gifts coming on TikTok, on YouTube with the super chats and everything else. And also, if you guys want to support me otherwise, you can go to aravosis.com. Thank you, Celtic, for the hats already, and L. You can go to aravosis.com, which links all of my stuff. Thank you for the gifts there. My Patreon, my Venmo. I'm forgetting everything. My Discord. Check it all out there. Okay, guys, let me start here. So some news just broke before we came on the show here that the U.S. government is considering, although it sounds like it's a pretty serious consideration or the news wouldn't have kind of jumped in with it so quickly, but thank you, Ginger. But the U.S. is looking at training 2,500 Ukrainian troops per month at a U.S. Military base in Germany. And apparently the kind of training we're looking at giving the Ukrainians is combined arms training, which is helping them, a little over my head in terms of the military stuff, but basically helping them coordinate all of their military activities. From what I understand, combined arms training, the idea is in order to win a war, you need the tanks communicating with the jeeps, communicating with the artillery, communicating with the drones, with the aircraft, everything else. Everybody working in concert. Russians, not so good at that, it seems, but U.S. troops are, NATO is, so we're going to be helping Ukrainians. That is what is being considered, but I suspect it wouldn't have been leaked unless it was something that's going to happen. Thank you for the gifts there, the origami there, Benji. Patriot missiles. So there's been talk in the last few days about Ukraine possibly getting Patriot missile batteries from the United States. These are anti-aircraft, anti-missile batteries, basically the kind of thing that Israel used when Saddam Hussein was shooting the Scud missiles at Israel to knock the missiles out of the sky. That's what they're for. So obviously this would be something really useful for Ukraine to knock the Russian missiles out as they're coming to destroy the electricity, the water supply, hit civilian targets, etc. Well, I'm seeing, it's interesting actually, because in looking at the major media today, I'm seeing two different takes on the story. One take is U.S. considering giving Patriot missiles to Ukraine. Whoa, right? The other take I'm seeing is the Pentagon came out and said, yes, we are thinking about it, but it's not going to happen anytime soon. And, I think it's my background in politics and 30 years in Washington. When somebody tells me they're thinking about something, I'm kind of like, big whoop. I don't care if you're thinking about it. I want to know if it's happening seriously, which is why that first story I mentioned, I'm still a little skeptical of, with the U.S. saying they're, thinking about training 2,500 Ukrainian troops per month, because I kind of feel like if it were going to happen, do it. Don't tell me you're thinking about it. So this Patriot thing, I don't think it's happening. I don't think it's happening anytime soon. The U.S. is still afraid of antagonizing Russia. And it really bothers me because, especially with the Patriot missiles, which we've talked about the other day, this is a defensive system. This is for shooting Russian rockets out of the sky before they attack Ukrainian apartment buildings, before they attack Ukrainian electricity, Ukrainian water. There's no reason for the U.S. not to be providing these to the Ukrainians. It's a bunch of BS. So kind of ticks me off on that. There's a report today, actually one of you knows a Ukrainian and was talking to me about this offline, that the Russians have put out, but I believe this because I was talking to this person before, the Russians have put out basically a draft notice to Ukrainians in Ukrainian territory that is occupied by the Russians. In other words, I'm not going to tell you exactly where just to be safe here, but the Russians in 2014 invaded and stole Crimea, okay? This is all of Ukraine, stole Crimea. Then this time around they invaded, and remember they came from the north and they got pushed out by the Ukrainians. Well, they also invaded all of this, and they're still occupying a good chunk of this. Kherson here, the Ukrainians have done a great job of pushing back. So the Ukrainians now have north of the river here, the Ukrainians took back, which is great. But south of the river, the Russians are still in control, and the Russians are in control of this. So somewhere around here, I'm not going to tell you where, Ukrainian is reporting that he just got basically served with a draft notice. Get this, though. A Ukrainian citizen getting a draft notice to join the Russian army because the Russians are now occupying his territory. And remember, because the Russians are claiming that this area of Ukraine is now Russia, then the citizens are now Russians and they have to join the Russian military. Now, I will say, strikes me as an incredibly stupid move from the Russians because, I mean, I think of myself, right? If the Russians invaded America and the Russians tried to force me to join the military, I would be the first person to be like, sure, give me a weapon. I'll be there, right? I mean, I'd open fire on these guys. And if I didn't open fire, I would, exactly, Joshua's saying sabotage, I would at least do sabotage. I would do anything I could. I mean, I would poison their food. I would do whatever I had to, right? If the Russians occupied America and they drafted me, it strikes me as insane. The thing is, the Russians know this, so I'm still curious as to what exactly they're going to have Ukrainians do that join the military. But in any case, really screwed up scene. Now, the other story out today is the Ukrainians are saying that the Russians are planning to release cadets from military academies early, Russian military academies, because they're running low on men again, and that it looks like there's going to be a new mobilization campaign in January, February of 2023. Now, I didn't get any more details on this because the Ukrainians kind of put out their news, but there's two possibilities here. One, and I don't think it's the one. One is that this is part of the normal mobilization that happens twice a year. Now, the one happened, I think, April. So 6 months from April would have been October. So 6 months from then would not be January, February. 6 months from then would be April again, right? So this sounds like it's a new mobilization. The Ukrainians have already warned that they think that Putin is going to try to call up an additional 700,000 men, which is crazy. I have a hard time believing that because look what happened this last time. They were calling up 300,000. I think they stopped at 210,000 or something. Mind you, they claim it's 210,000. Who knows how many they actually got? The Russians are horrible at logistics. Logistics is basically the supply chain, how you supply food, water to the troops in the field, right? So the idea here, think about it, right? You've got Russia is all of this red area here is Russia, okay? This is Ukraine. It's Russia here. You've got water here. You've got Ukraine occupied by Russia. So in order to supply the Russian troops who are here, and we're talking, they need food, they need water, they need ammunition, okay? Because think about it. These guys are fighting a war. You're running out of bullets. You're running out of, your tank needs more tank shells. Your artillery needs more artillery shells, right? Tanks, for example, I've told you guys this before, talking to a military friend of mine, tanks need to be refueled every 1 to 2 days. Imagine that every 1 to 2 days. In just the area of Kherson here, the region of Kherson, there are 70,000 Russian troops, we believe. Those Russian troops need to be fed and watered 3 times a day. Where are they getting that food from? Logistics. In other words, the Russians have to have supply lines that go all the way back to Russia this way. These supply lines got screwed up when the Kerch Bridge got blown up, right? And they go back all the way through occupied territory here, all the way back to Russia this way and up here. The Russians have got to have supply lines going all the way through to keep providing food and water and weapons to these guys. And the Russians suck at it. I mean, they're very bad at their supply lines, at their logistics. So Russia couldn't handle 300,000 new men, and they settled for 210,000. A lot of folks think the 210,000 might not be real, but even if it is real, thank you, Sparky, why didn't they go for 300? They need these men. They still have a shortage of men. And the thought is they couldn't train them. They couldn't feed them. We know they didn't have enough clothes for these guys. They didn't have winter jackets. They didn't have winter boots, right? I mean, so we know there's been a lot of problems the Russians have got anyway. Imagine 700,000 men when they can't even handle 300,000, right? So thank you, Six Sauer. Actually, one more point I'll make. We were even hearing stories of Ukrainian Russian men who were drafted 3 or 4 days later with no training at all. They were dropped off at the Ukrainian front. In other words, the area where Ukraine and the Russians are fighting each other, the front, the most dangerous part, and given like nothing, no instructions, nothing. They were given some rusty guns and they were told fight. And these guys went, what the hell are we doing here? No practice, nothing, no training. So good luck, 700,000 men. Now, 700,000 could still could cause a problem because they're cannon fodder, right? They're there just to be bodies in the way, but still. There was an explosion at a Ukrainian embassy, the Ukrainian embassy in Spain today. It was a letter bomb, apparently. It didn't cause any real damage. The person who opened it got like a minor wound to one finger, which means it, fortunately wasn't a big deal. Thank you, El. But the Ukrainian embassies around the world are now on alert to basically check all their mail. I mean, they check the mail anyway, but to be super careful now. Thank you, Ali, for that. Oh, that's kind of cute. I haven't seen that. The llama, that llama was interesting. I've not seen that llama before. Wow. Paul Whelan. So this is interesting regarding Paul Whelan. So Paul Whelan is the other American who is in prison in Ukraine right now. We know about Brittany Griner, right? Brittany Griner is the American soccer star. Thank you, Jordy, for that. The American basketball star who the Russians arrested on drug charges. Might be true, might not be true. Keep in mind, Brittany confessed, but she confessed while being a prisoner of the Russians, of a dictatorial state. You can't trust anything anybody says while they're being held by dictators. So I'm sorry. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't, but her confession means nothing. Paul Whelan is another guy they're holding. His family is very concerned because he's kind of disappeared. He would regularly call his family. At least the Russians gave him, phone rights. Well, he didn't call on, let me see here, the calls that were missed. They were told he was moved to a hospital on November 17th, but they don't know why. His family has not heard from him in a week. They grew particularly alarmed when he missed a scheduled call home on Thanksgiving Day. And then he failed to call home on Wednesday, his father's 85th birthday. Now, Wednesday would be today. So this guy missed Thanksgiving, and a week later, his dad's birthday. Something's going on. And the family's really concerned about his health. I am John Aravosis. Just to remind folks, this is the Aravosis Report. This is my daily show where we talk about the latest from Ukraine. This is the part of the show where I give you guys all the news updates, and then the second half we take your questions. My dog and I take your questions and answer them, and we go from there. On TikTok, you can submit questions via the Q&A link that is in my profile. Please do it that way. It's the most organized way. Thank you, Al, for the gift. And on YouTube and everywhere else. Oh, we've got our first whale of the day. Thank you, dear Benji, for the whale. I will say I was looking at some of the gifts you guys have been giving, and I apologize because TikTok doesn't tell us like how much you're spending on the gifts. So it's not always easy to know somebody who really put themselves out to give a great gift. So I apologize that I don't always know that it was something just insane that you bought. So I do say thank you anyway, just so you know. Sometimes I don't, anyway, you get it. I don't know how much you guys spend on these things. So I apologize for that, but that whale was cool. Thank you. So the Paul Whelan. Oh yeah. So John Aravosis, this is my Discord. This is not my Discord, but do check out my Discord, discord.aravosis.com. We go there. Actually, I'll go there after the show today for maybe 15, 20 minutes. And just a big online community. We hang out, we chat. It's the same folks pretty much that are here. We go and hang out there afterwards just so we can chat a little more directly. And I've got an auction going on, and we got some new auction materials that Vlad sent from Ukraine. So definitely come over and check out the auction. Pretty cool. Aravosis.com gives you all of my links. So howitzers. This was actually a very interesting story. Artillery pieces. The artillery pieces, Ukrainian artillery pieces are breaking, and they're having a hard time sort of replacing them. These are artillery pieces that the U.S. and other NATO countries gave them. And I had heard a Ukrainian, I'd seen a broadcast in the last day of a Ukrainian soldier saying this to the reporter and saying, these pieces, we're using them all the time. Basically, the artillery are those big guns. They're the big guns, frankly, that we raise the money that we're getting our slogan on the side. But they're the big guns that, it's like boom, boom, right? Huge explosion, huge weapon. Well, these things going off at least several times an hour sometimes. It causes wear and tear. Now, the Ukrainians are doing what needs to be done to take care of the weapons, oiling them, whatever they need to do. But the barrels, for example, just get old. The barrels of the guns need to be replaced, or they can just explode themselves. Well, the Ukrainians, for example, don't have the capacity to actually repair the barrels in the field. Oh, thank you, Celtic Archer. Or Celtic Archer. Now, I know that was a nice gift. Thank you. That one I remember. Thank you for that. Let me read you a little bit from the article. Actually, this was in the New York Times. Ukrainian troops fire thousands of explosive shells at Russian targets every day using high-tech cannons supplied by the U.S. and its allies. But those weapons are burning out after months of overuse or being damaged or destroyed in combat, and dozens have been taken off the battlefield for repairs. A third of the roughly 350 Western-made howitzers donated to Kyiv are out of action at any given time, according to defense officials. Swapping out a howitzer's barrel, which can be 20 feet long and weigh thousands of pounds, is beyond the capability of soldiers in the field. Thousands of pounds would be still 1,000 kilos. Is beyond the capability of soldiers in the field and has become a priority for the Pentagon's European Command, which has set up a repair facility in Poland. So what they're doing is they're trying to get these things repaired in Poland. But again, if you're fighting the Russians all the way down here, for example, right? And you've got to get this gun breaks. You've got to get this several thousand-pound gun, this 1,000-kilogram gun that is, the barrel alone is 20 feet long. These things are huge. You've got to get this thing all the way back here to get it to Poland. I'm even off the map. Poland is over here. The fighting is all along here. Biggest fighting is around here and around here. So even here, the same thing. You've got to get it all the way back to Poland. That's not a small deal. Because also what that does too is, remember I talked about logistics at the beginning of the show? That's logistics as well. How do you get these guns from the battlefield to Poland again when you're busy fighting, right? So anyway, that's going to be an ongoing problem for the Ukrainians. More whine from the Russians re-arms control. So the Russians pulled recently out of the arms control talks with the U.S. We started talking to them again, to sort of see where things are with the START treaty. And the Russians, freaked out and pulled out. I talked about this yesterday. Let me read you first what the Russians are saying today, but they're playing us. This is the Russians trying to scare Biden and everybody into, oh, look how bad things are going, right? We better be careful, maybe not help Ukraine as much. Listen to this. Top Russian diplomat, according to TASS. Listen to this. Yes. Moscow will not discuss the START nuclear arms treaty until the U.S. stops supplying Ukraine with weapons, said a top diplomat. That's going to happen, right? We're going to stop supplying them with weapons. They will keep, this is from Maria Zakharova, the Russian foreign ministry spokeswoman. They, meaning us, they will keep supplying all those arms and goad the Kyiv regime while we sit down to discuss mutually security issues with them. So she's saying, we're not going to sit down and discuss security with you if you keep giving weapons to Ukraine. They're doing this. The reason they're doing this, I think, is it would be too calming of a thing. It would be too good of a thing if Russia sat down with the United States and had nuclear arms control talks. Because what message would that send to NATO and to America? It would say, you know what? Things aren't great with Russia right now. Obviously, there's a war going on in Ukraine. We're kind of fighting Russia with the war there. I mean, obviously, we're supporting Ukraine, and our weapons are killing Russians. I mean, right? So, we're at war with Russia in kind of an indirect way. If we were still able to have arms control talks, that would make American leaders and, frankly, European leaders and the public at large think, you know what? But we're still making progress in the relationship. We're worried about nuclear weapons, but look, we're even negotiating nuclear arms control. See, things aren't that bad. Russia doesn't want us to think things are that bad, aren't that bad. Russia wants us to think that there's a chance of a nuclear war any moment, right? And if we don't stop supplying Ukraine, there's going to be a nuclear war and the whole world's going to die. Russia does not want us to think, oh yeah, nuclear war. No, it's not a problem, because we're literally sitting down with the Russians and we're discussing all of this in a nice, sane, reasonable manner that, to stop the world from blowing up. Russia wants you to think the world's going to blow up. Again, final point here. This is the issue with the Patriot missiles. It was the issue early on. Remember at the beginning of the war, when Poland wanted to give those MiG fighter jets to the Ukrainians, and then the Germans freaked out, and then the Americans freaked out, and everybody freaked out, and it didn't happen. Everything, the long-range missiles that some of us want to give the Ukrainians, my government and a lot of the governments are freaking out because we don't want to make Vladimir Putin angry, because who knows what Putin will do. Putin has to present himself as an irrational actor. If Putin starts negotiating with us in good faith, then no longer are we going to say, oh, Putin's crazy. What might he do? Right? They want us to think what he might do is launch nuclear weapons. So anyway, that's what's going on. Let me see here. Musk. Oh, Elon. God, Elon. Elon Musk yesterday or overnight raised the price of Starlink internet in Ukraine. He raised there's two things here. One is the monthly subscription, and the other is the actual, Starlink box center. I've never used one. I've seen pictures, but you've got to actually have the technology, and then you need the subscription, right? It's almost like cable TV in America, I guess, or anywhere else. So he raised the price of the subscription 25% in Ukraine, and he almost doubled the price of the box. It was something like $385 or something, and now he's upping it to $700 for the box. Now, Ukraine, you'll recall, is having lots of problems with electricity right now, right? They don't have power. They can't get, and by the way, the power's getting knocked out, the water's getting knocked out, the cell phone service is getting knocked out. These guys need internet more than ever. And Elon just jacked their price of part of the service 25% and the other part almost doubling it. Richest guy in the world. He's doing this on purpose. I mean, I've been following him like nonstop in terms of what he's doing with Twitter here in the States. And something happened with Musk. And again, I'll talk about it briefly here because this relates to the Ukraine thing. Something happened. I don't know what, but something got in his head, and he is convinced of, he's almost convinced of a conspiracy, not almost, he's convinced of a conspiracy against him. And he thinks it's like leftists and the global leftists. And now he's thrown Ukraine in the pool, with the global leftists. And this is why he's been making these comments about how, right, he wants the war to end. It's going to be nuclear war if it doesn't, right? Vladimir Putin talking point after he talked to Putin, how he talks about how, oh, well, Crimea, that belongs to Ukraine anyway. I mean, he's got all the pro-Putin talking points, and he thinks that basically the liberals out there, liberals meaning the left in American parlance, that the left is somehow against him. And the fact that he got criticized, remember, he had offered Starlink for free. Starlink is satellite internet, I should have said. It's satellite internet, which is great in Ukraine where they can use it, and they're using it incredibly significantly for the war effort. I forgot what I was going to say with this. He got criticized for the Starlink thing because he provided it for free. And then a couple months later, when Ukrainians were relying on it for every battle, said, you know what? I'm tired of paying for it. I'm just going to turn it off if somebody else doesn't pay. And everybody went, what? And ripped him to shreds. And it wasn't we don't appreciate your gift. It's you don't give a gift that is life-saving and literally a couple months later turn around and go, you know what? It's costing me too much. I'm unplugging you, right? I'm unplugging you from the machine keeping you alive. Sorry. Someone's gotten in his ear. He's got a lot of folks. He's been, like I said, we could have a longer discussion about this. I've been following Elon left and right on this stuff, but somebody got in his ear on the far right, and he's been talking to them nonstop on Twitter. I mean, the far right, the crazy right, and this is part of it. He's turned on Ukraine, and I guarantee you, he did this to be a jerk. He did this because basically he's like, look, I'm just going to charge them more. So Zelenskyy turned around today, and this was very interesting. So Zelenskyy, the president of Ukraine, he turns around today, and it's funny because the articles about Zelenskyy aren't mentioning the price hike from Musk. They're treating them as two different stories. I think they're the same story. The price hike news came out last night in America, which would be almost this morning in Ukraine. Well, Zelenskyy during the same day then turns around and invites Musk to come to Ukraine, but the invitation was as passive aggressive as you can get. Passive aggressive, great expression. Google it if you don't know it. So listen to this. In sharp comments directed at the Tesla chief executive, Zelenskyy said, if you want to understand what Russia has done here, come to Ukraine and you will see this with your own eyes. After that, you will tell us how to end this war, who started it, and when we can end it. So he's saying, if you want to tell us how we can end this, because Musk made a peace proposal a month ago that was basically a Putin's peace proposal after talking to Putin. So he's saying, if you want to tell us how to end the war and when we can end it, he goes, and who started it, come visit us and then we'll talk. Which honestly, I was thinking the Ukrainians should have invited him anyway. They should have gotten Musk there. I mean, Musk is being an ass, but you know, it's funny. One of the things I think they teach you in politics, but I would also say I'm a lawyer and they teach you in law as well, is, you know, you don't let your emotions get in the way of something. So like, for example, in the law, somebody's suing you, it pisses you off. Sometimes it's just better to settle, right? For companies, it's better for them to pay somebody $20,000 to go away than to go to court, even if the company thinks they're right. And similar thing in politics where, you know, Musk is a baby. He's a jerk. I mean, he's got, I think, some psychological issues as well, personally. And I don't just mean his Asperger's, but I think he's got psychological problems. And nonetheless, he's the richest man in the world. And his software, I mean, his technology is very important to Ukraine. And he is the richest man in the world. He could be really helpful to Ukraine. I think it is still in Zelensky's benefit to reach out and say, I would almost say this. I think Zelenskyy probably should not have put the statement out there being as nasty. Now, I guarantee you Zelenskyy did it because Musk just doubled the price of Starlink in Ukraine until Zelensky's furious. But I still think he almost should have presented it in a way that Zelenskyy couldn't say no. He should have presented it and in a way that was, you know what, we'd love to have him come. You know, we hope he could find time in his schedule. This is important. And see if there was a way of getting Musk to come in a way that Musk couldn't say no. That would have been my hope. But because you never know, he may come and actually finally kind of wake up and go, yeah, there actually is a bad party to this war. Who knew it, right? And it wasn't Zelenskyy who started it. I am John Aravosis. This is the Aravosis Report. You're watching my daily show Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, where I talk about the latest news from Ukraine, and then we do Q&A. I take your questions, and also you guys can weigh in with your thoughts on what's going on. On TikTok, you could submit the questions via the Q&A link in your profile, in my profile, that is. And on YouTube and everywhere else, use the comment box. I am independent media. Thank you, Marcy. I was just going to say, I'm doing this for free other than your guys' support. So please do keep the gifts coming on TikTok, super chat questions and everything else there. And if the spirit moves you, go to my Patreon as well. I've got a Patreon set up. You guys can do donations there. You know, $5 a month is still really helpful for me to get a steady income going so I can keep doing this news and keep my dog, you know, comfortable to the way she's accustomed. So thank you guys for that. Oh, and then, yeah, so my Patreon, patreon.com/Aravosis. But honestly, the easiest way to check out all of my links, thank you, Flower Lady. That is one of my favorites, the seafloor. Go to aravosis.com and you can see all of my links there. So thank you for that. Actually, I've still got the Black Friday sale is no longer on in my store. I will say that. Even though it says the Black Friday sale, it's the link to the store, but the sale's no longer up because obviously it's not Black Friday. All right, what else we got here? The German energy company Uniper announced today that it would take the Russian state gas company Gazprom to arbitration over the service disruption amid the Ukraine war. Now, this is interesting because a number of us were talking about basically, if you remember the Nord Stream pipeline, there's Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2. These are the Russian pipelines that were going from, or that are going from Russia to Germany. And the thought was that, not the thought, Germany didn't allow Nord Stream 2 to even start. Nord Stream 1's been around for decades, both of them natural gas pipelines. Nord Stream 2 didn't start up. The US kind of pressured or cajoled or whatever. Germany finally agreed not to even start the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, open it up, that is, because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Well, someone a few months ago blew up both pipelines. At least I should just say blew a hole, or blew 4 holes in the pipelines, okay? Putting them out of commission for a while. The thought at the time, the Russians kept trying to convince everybody it was America and it was Poland and it was Ukraine and this garbage. Everybody else was like, it's got to be Russia, but it was still kind of weird that Russia was doing this, right? Well, one of the thoughts for why Russia could have done it was that when Russia shut down its natural gas exports to Europe, which it did, okay, Russia broke its contract to provide natural gas to Europe by shutting off the gas. Well, that means you can go to arbitration or court or whatever and get money, get damages for Russia violating the contract. Well, what people said was, if you're Russia and you don't want to pay damages for violating the contract, the best way to do it is blow up your own pipeline, because nobody knows who blew up the pipeline. And you go, well, gosh, we'd love to provide natural gas to Europe, but somebody blew up our pipeline and we can't use it anymore, right? So it's interesting. It is certainly interesting that this is already playing out this way, that the German energy company is now going to court or going to arbitration to basically say those damn Russians owe us money. So anyway, just thought I would bring that up. And thank you, Brendy, for that. Wow, every live. Wow. You must be tired. I'm tired, but no, thank you for that, Brendy. That's sweet of you. All right, what do we got here? European Union Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell says that the EU is sending 40 more generators to Ukraine amid the Russian attacks on the energy. Per Reuters, Russian and Chinese strategic warplanes conducted joint exercises today over the Sea of Japan and the East China Sea. Personally, I don't really care. I mean, they're going to conduct exercises. Big deal. I'm just not too worried about it. And finally, okay, this is a really neat story. This is perfect, actually. We're about half an hour in, where I like to be when we get to the question and answer period. Do submit questions by, you know what? And of course, I'm forgetting as I'm talking to you guys that my microphone is far away. So you might have noticed I was a little more quiet today. That's because my mic was across the table. Sorry. Nobody was complaining, so I wasn't worried, I guess. This is a really neat story. If you've got questions, please do submit questions in the Q&A link in my profile on TikTok. And you guys know how to do it in the comments there. But let me read you this story first that was really kind of adorable from Sky News. 4 lion cubs orphaned during the war in Ukraine have arrived safely at a Minnesota animal sanctuary. 3 female cubs named Stephanie, Lesia, and Prada, there you go, with the exactly Celtic, with the pauser, along with a male called Taras, have been offered a permanent home at the Wildcat Sanctuary in Sandstone, Minnesota. All are between 4 and 5 months old and spent the last 3 months at the Poznan Zoo in Poland. The animals have lived through sporadic bombings and drone attacks in Ukraine, according to the International Fund for Animal Welfare. They were born at breeding facilities in Ukraine during the war and orphaned at a few weeks old. Oh, wow. So the parents then got killed. Dr. Andrew Kushner, an American veterinarian who accompanied the cubs on their flight, cared for the cubs this is great, this part. Cared for the cubs in Ukraine and Poland. The vet would prepare their specialized formula. Thank you, Benji. He would prepare a specialized feeding formula for them every 3 hours. And on nights when the power went out, he used his arms and legs to warm their milk bottles. How's that? Every 3 hours, this guy was feeding them. Amazing. I just thought that was the nicest story, and a nice story to sort of end on, because it's kind of a happy story. But And I would love to see lion cubs. Imagine, I mean, 3-month-old lion cubs have to be absolutely adorable. Oh my God. All right, guys, let me see here. Let me actually somebody had put yep, yep. Colin is saying, if you think Russia started the war, you haven't done any research. An 8-year war Russia didn't want to be involved in, but Ukraine left no choice. I mean, well, Russia, I don't know about Russia not wanting to be involved in, but right, Ukraine was left no choice. I mean, Russia started the war from the beginning, exactly. So, all right, let me look here at the TikTok questions. Oh, and Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern, I am going to finally have another. Right, hello. I'm going to be having another. Whatchamacallit? I'm spacing out here. Oh, hello. Thank you, Celtic, for that. Saturday, or that was Paulie. Oh, Paul Ally Edwards. There you go. Saturday at 2 p.m., I'm going to be having my monthly, which we haven't done in a while, gathering of the paid subscribers of a certain level on my Discord. So those of you, oh, Dawn. Hold on, we got that was wild. That was very cool, Dawn. Okay, that was very interesting. Thank you. That one I'd not seen before. That was for the lion cubs. That was cute. That was very cute. So 2 p.m. But 2 p.m. is going to be for the donors. I believe it might be the $25 and donors up. You got to sort of check the categories. I'm already forgetting what it is, but that will be Tuesday at 2. Oh my God, Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Hey, official bro, thank you for that. Ben is saying, what are your thoughts on Russia's defense minister announcing they were planning on building nuclear strategic forces in 2023? Thank you, Celtic. I did not see anything on this. Let me see. Hang on. Russia's defense. I want to see what exactly that means. Like, what do you... Hold on a second here. Oh, here we go. Let me see. Well, I'm seeing it in a Chinese publication. Let me see here. Russia will pay special attention to the construction of major facilities in 2023 for the country's strategic nuclear forces, Defense Minister said today. Currently, the construction of infrastructural facilities is underway in 5 formations. Work continues on the creation of a multi-service. I mean, first of all, I'm not sure what they're planning on doing. Let me see what the Moscow Times, they're a little better than the Chinese press. The Russian military should deploy next generational weapons in its campaign in Ukraine. We need to continue upgrading and creating advanced systems with their subsequent application in the special military operation. These words are just like blah, blah, blah. Shoigu did not specify which types of innovative weapon systems he's referring to. Okay, so total BS. We need innovative weapon systems, but I'm not going to tell you which ones. Yeah. I mean, whatever. I'm not sure I care, only because I'm saying, like, what money are they doing it with, first of all, right? I mean, they're under the sanctions. They don't have the cash. They don't have, I mean, good luck if they've got the materials to do it because of the sanctions, right? I mean, nuclear weapons, I'm sure they've got the nuclear materials, but everything else. So I don't know. I mean, I will put it this way. It sounds once again like it's one of those Russian, everything from my perspective, everything Russia says should be seen through maybe two, Moosehead Squirrel BS, exactly, through 2 lenses. One, they lie. So assume everything they're telling you is probably a lie. There's some reason they're telling you, but it's a lie. And secondly, their job is to freak us out. Their job is to freak Biden out and to convince Biden, or at least Germany or France or somebody else, into going, oh my God, this war is getting too out of control. This situation with Russia is too dangerous. We've got to stop helping Ukraine, and we've got to force the Ukrainians to just give away their land and end the war. That's what Russia's job is here. So Russia's going to talk about building new nuclear weapons, or like Shoigu said, the defense minister, new strategic weapon system that I'm not going to name. That was actually Rosanna Dana, and not actually a Russian accent, but you get the idea. So yeah, I don't buy it. Seems like Russia is bringing us full circle to the days when we worried about otherwise impoverished and weak rogue actors with nukes. So Russia is bringing a full circle to the days when we worried about otherwise impoverished and weak rogue actors with nukes. I'm not sure what you mean, Elise. Thank you for that, though. What do you mean? I mean, write me more. Don't pay, obviously. You could just follow up. Give me a follow-up as to what you mean by that, though. Are you saying Russia's the weak actors? Yeah, give me more. Give me more, Elise. All right, let me look for a quick, while we're waiting for Elise to give us a little more. Let me look for a little more here in my Q&A. Oh, did I have I've got a draft on my TikTok I forgot to post. Oops. Up and Daniel. Actually, I'll bring Daniel's question up since Daniel's got his up right now. Hang on. I was driver for a Ukrainian mom and 3 daughters, 18, 14, and 11 from Vinnytsia. Yeah, Vinnytsia, I believe, is where that horrific, hold on, I know it is. Yes, Vinnytsia is where that horrific missile strike happened a few months ago. Remember the little girl with Down syndrome that was killed? And she was pushing her little baby carriage, her little toy baby carriage. She must have been like 3 or 4 years old, and she was killed. And there's the picture of like her shoes sticking out. That's Vinnytsia. Yeah. Anyway, so the mum feared Russian soldiers more than the loss of utilities. Ireland has waived visa requirements. They were registered with full rights, work, health, welfare in 1 hour. Wow. Oh, that's amazing. Now, can they stay? How long can they stay? I'm curious. Any of you Irish? I know we've got our Irish contingent here. Is there any kind of a period of time as to how long they can stay or anything? But that's wild. What's also interesting, and thank you, by the way, Daniel, that was very generous of you. What's also interesting from what Daniel is saying is the fact that the mom is with her kids, and which kind of makes sense. Mom's biggest fear wasn't losing electricity and water. Mom's biggest fear was the Russian soldiers basically killing them or doing other things to them. Thank you, 6 Hour. Right. So kind of interesting when you sort of see it in the perspective like that, and why you sort of understand when Ukrainians are saying that they're not thrilled about the concerns going into the winter of power and water, but that, their bigger concern is, the Russian at their doorstep, literally. That's interesting. That's really interesting. Hang on a sec. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you for that. Mom's dog is barking in the background. Oh, hey, Harvey. Harvey's joining us from the UK. Always happy to see Harvey. Here's what Elise's follow-up to her question or her point. We used to worry about Al-Qaeda or ISIS with nukes. Now Russia is becoming an otherwise weak terror entity with nukes. Oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting, actually. That's interesting. Well, you're right. We went from worrying about Russia to worrying about the Middle East, to worrying about terrorism. I mean, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, right? I mean, that was our biggest concern. And NATO overall and European countries cut back on the weapons they had produced. We cut back on our weapon stocks in Europe, our tanks and other things, because we no longer thought we were going to be involved in a land war with Russia, which was, or Soviet Union at the time. That was the big concern since in the post-World War II era was a big land war across the Germanies with the Soviets. Then Soviet Union dissolves, 1991, and everyone assumes that Russia's no longer a threat, and we start worrying about terrorism, nuclear threat from terrorist states, nuclear threat from Iran, right? So there's that concern as well. And what happens? You're right. Now we're back to worrying about Russia, but you're right. It's interesting because Russia is a weak terror entity with nukes. Yeah, because they're no longer the big strategic threat. As I've said before, they're not a military superpower. They're certainly not an economic superpower, but they are a nuclear superpower. And they're basically little more than a terrorist state now, which is really sad, but they're basically a terrorist state. You did get the Ukraine pin. Me and you, Ukraine class is bragging. Let me see here. All right, let me pull up now. I'll pull up questions on here real quick. Some Ukrainians from places like Mariupol more likely to end up staying as their homes are being destroyed. Yeah. Yeah. Ben is saying his dad was based in West Germany in a British tank regiment ready to engage the Russians if they decided to invade. Oh, yeah. No, it was a big, and there was what was it, Fulda Gap? I want to say this sort of area where it was expected the Soviets were going to invade. All right, hang on. Question, Q&A, Q&A, Q&A. Oh, and I didn't say, did I? Oh, my store too. Do check out my store as well. I've got a lot of Ukrainian-themed goods in my store. Half of the proceeds have been channeled back into Ukraine to humanitarian. What? I can't play with you right now. To humanitarian. No, now Sasha's just. No, stop! Mom's dog wants my affection, so she's at the door going, "Rrr." My dog is beneath me in the bed, pissed off at Mom's dog for showing me attention. So my dog then lunges at Mom's dog. That was the whole passion play that just happened beneath the table as I was talking. Any case, like I was saying, I've got a store. 50% of the proceeds I channel back into Ukraine for humanitarian aid. 50% has been just to support my work doing this. So check it out. It's store.aravosis.com. But again, just go to aravosis.com and I've got all my links there, including the store. The Black Friday sale is no longer on, even though it says it is in the link. When you get to the store, you'll see the prices are not discounted. It's a pain to set it up. So I may do another sale, but it's just kind of, they don't make it easy. All right, let me keep going here. But please keep your gifts coming on TikTok and elsewhere. Harvey. Haven't seen Harvey in a while. Harvey Kittle from the UK. Can't speak for the Irish. Probably shouldn't speak for the Irish, I would think, too. The Brits have waived visa restrictions for 3 months staying with households. Host families are paid to house them. Oh, that's interesting. Harvey's saying in terms of Ukrainian refugees. So the British government is paying families to house the Ukrainians. Thank you, Saad. That was nice of you. Appreciate that. That's very interesting. Then, as of currently, an additional 1.5 years. Okay. The Brits have waived visa restrictions for 3 months, staying with the household. Then, as of currently, an additional 1.5 years residing within the UK, they're given state social security. Okay. But at least it's a couple of years, which is good. Kukla, what do you want? I can't help you. Do you need to go out or what are you doing? Jeez. Hold on. Hey, stop it. I'm going to. Kukla. Jeez. Hold on a second. I'm like messaging my nephew. Hold on. Kukla. I'm trying to message him while I'm doing this. Kukla. And of course the iPhone. Kukla. Jeez, I may just pick her up. Hey, come here. This is what I usually do right now is just exactly. Come here. Come on. It's okay, Sash. All right. Oh, jeez, she's so bad. She's just so bad. She's so bad. All right, Harvey, I'm getting rid of you so people can see. This is Kukla. Kukla's a Maltese Bichon. Hi. Yeah? What do you think? Yeah? She's funny, though, because she was my dad's dog, and nothing happier than simply being held, this dog. Just loves it. So right now, she's like, okay, you're holding me up. My dog would be trying to get down. This one's just like, you're holding me, and I'm in love. I am back up. I'm at Mom's until New Year's, so that's what's going on with this. But she may have to pee, or she's just being a whiner. Sorry, let me see more questions here. All right, let me pull up another TikTok question. Oh, she's totally saying I'm a baby. Yeah, look at her. She's just like, la, la, la. And my dog is laying down, but the head is up looking at us. Not happy. All right, TikTok, let me pull up another question from you guys. CNN reported that the United States will increase training of Ukrainian troops. Yep. How much does this help Ukraine and what does it mean? Yeah, I mentioned that at the beginning of the show, they're talking about 2,500 troops a month. The report I saw suggested the U.S. was talking about it. It wasn't totally clear if we were doing it for sure yet. It's funny when the Brits were talking about. Now that's funny because kukla also means kukla means doll in Greek too. That is funny. I think it means the same. We discussed this before. I think it means the same in Russian too. maybe Ukrainian, I don't know. It means dal in Greek, but it is also used in Greek to mean like my love, my dear. So it's dal, but like your mother, your grandmother will call you kukla, you know? So it's both, you know? So it's a term of endearment as well. But see, look at her. Now, just the fact that I'm holding her, she's totally like, she could sit like this for hours, you know? In any case, the, you know, when the Brits were training like 10,000 or whatever it was of the Ukrainians, I remember at the time thinking it didn't sound like a lot because I was like 10,000, you know, they've got 150,000 or 200,000 men and women under arms. And the military folks at the time were saying that's actually a lot, like 10 to 15,000 troops would be a lot. So if the US were to do 2,500 a month, that's times 10 months would be 25,000 plus 5,000. That's 30,000. That would be 30,000 troops over a year. That's not bad. And actually, it's also each month there's another 2,500 as well, right? So I don't know. I mean, at least hold on. PeaceCon Mars is saying if you treat your soldiers' lives as important, 10,000 soldiers is a lot. Yeah, I'd be curious for the military folks to weigh in. More like an ugly doll in Polish, not in Greek. In Greek, it just means doll. But what are like the military folks? I'm just curious from you guys because you guys are up on this stuff. Is, you know, 25,000 troops in combined arms, that a good significant number? Just throw it out at you guys. Let me see here. I'm also going to check for yep. Oh, that's funny. No, that's interesting. Sorry, Frankenstein. Frank was weighing in on the issue of tanks needing gasoline or, you know, fuel, not gasoline, but diesel fuel, because I was talking about how the Russians are so bad at their logistics. And he said, John, the fuel rating for a tank isn't described in miles per gallon. It's gallons per mile. Like how many gallons do you need to go a mile? They are extreme gas guzzlers. And that's why I was telling you every day or two, you've got to fill up a tank all over again. So you really need a good supply network to be able to be able to keep supplying the tanks. It's not the same as Scotland, but Ukraine as well. Oh, this is interesting. Sorry, Ben is saying, interesting fact I found out today was that St. Andrews is not only the patron saint of Scotland, but Ukraine as well, as it's St. Andrew's Day in Scotland today. I thought that was cool. There you go. I did not know that. I know, for example, like the patron saint, so to speak, of Kyiv, the capital, is the Archangel Michael. I learned it because some of the patches. Okay, Kukla, you got to go because you're hot. And I also cannot pick up the phone, but you're very warm. She's totally like, okay, I'm going to put you down now. She's totally happy just sitting here with me. Oh, my God. Okay. That was just making me a little too warm. It's cute, but dogs are a little hot. Let me pull up my TikTok again. As I said, guys, put your questions in TikTok in the Q&A. I mean, I can look here at the as well, but it's easier. It's easier in the Q&A. Let me see here. Oh, how long till the excuse we country X, so we Americans or whoever, can't get involved because of a nuclear threat becomes dangerous to foreign relations and future allies? Well, I mean, the thing is, it is dangerous, but it's also not wrong. You know what I mean? I mean, it's you do have to be careful in getting into a possible war with somebody who's got nukes. That's the whole reason people want nukes, right? It works as a very good deterrent. So, I mean, but I would agree it's not very helpful, especially with the Russians, because to some degree, I think what worries me is to some degree, we're also setting up a situation where the Russians have made it clear sort of to the world that, and frankly, we have too, that if you have nukes, Kukla, oh, please don't do this to me again, that if you have nukes, we're going to let you get away with literally murder. You know, I mean, yeah, we'll finance the other guy you're fighting. We may not give them everything, which, right, we're not, well, actually, no, we'll help the guy you're fighting, but we're still not going to give them everything they need because we're afraid that you have nukes. So we're not even giving Ukraine everything it needs. So no, it's a problem. Yeah. No, it's an ongoing problem. Oh, St. Michael's is also the warrior, or St. Michael, of good versus evil. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, he's the one who will battle Satan. Oh, that is interesting. Okay. Oh, that is interesting. The Ukrainians ought to do more with that. God, okay, I am not up on my weapon systems to this degree. Domenkini is asking, which missile defense is better between the Patriots and Iron Dome? Are they the same type of weapon? I mean, the Patriot's been around for decades. Iron Dome, I want to say, is relatively new, isn't it? I mean, well, although they got the newer one, I guess it's been around for a while, but I have no idea in terms of the comparison. Any military folks out there know in terms of Iron Dome versus the Patriot missiles? I don't know. Iron Dome is newer, so I would think it's better, but I'm not going to. Same thing. They're not the same type. Dome is for under 70 kilometers, which would be like under 45 miles or something like that. Iron Dome, a system of launchers. Iron Dome is definitely more expensive per missile. Interesting. Just reading, sort of same thing. Some people are saying it's the same thing, though. That's interesting. Okay. Iron Dome, better for artillery. Iron Dome would be better for Ukraine. What missile defense has Russia employed? I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. Interesting. Similar, but not the same. Okay. The TikTokers were really weighing it. This is good. If the YouTubers, you weren't being very good on this today. The TikTokers are going nuts with this stuff. This is good. You guys are very helpful. Iron Dome is constantly developed. I think Russia's now using Chinese bottle rockets. They ran out of missiles. Yeah, I'm sure. Patriot, Daniel's saying, Patriot uses aircraft radar to be used to its fullness. Needs over the horizon. Without air superiority, it's just short range. Okay. Patriots are bigger missiles for CBMs and cruise missiles. All right. Patriot for long-range missiles. Okay, well, that's what somebody else was saying, right, that the Iron Dome is for under 70 kilometers. Iron Dome is a more agile missile than the Patriot. I love how you guys know all this stuff. Iron Dome is just a system of sensors integrated into Patriot type and CRAM anti-missile artillery. Iron Dome have a laser option. That I know. That's the newer one, right? Yeah, that I knew about, the laser option, which would be very cool. Imagine using lasers to shoot down. That was the whole idea with Star Wars and all of that, I guess. Well, I guess that wasn't even using lasers back then, but it's a neat idea. All right. Rob Wall is saying, I wonder with so many Russian fathers dying in the war, if the war will affect how their young daughters and sons perceive their nation and leaders. Yes, but that doesn't mean in a good way. What I mean is good way for the rest of the world. Russia's a dictatorship. These guys, the world's interconnected, so it's hard for the Russians to stop the it's hard for the Russian government to stop its people from getting the news. But having said that, boy, the Russian people seem, they're either incredibly gullible or I don't know what, but the government seems to be able to pull a fast one on them quite easily. So will the Russian government convince them that, hey, stop. Will the Russian government convince them that all right, dog again, come here. Oh, you're fine. Come here. Jeez. Will the Russian government convince sorry, putting her on my lap this time, it's easier. The sons and daughters of these men killed in Ukraine that this is how you fight for your country. You're supposed to lose your parents. Right? I lost my parents in a great war. That's what's expected. So all of a sudden they become more hardened and they start to support these things even more, or it creates a generation that lost their parents, lost their fathers for no good reason, because of a corrupt government told them it was necessary. That's the hope, right? Another issue is, Afghanistan. Yeah, Afghanistan kind of blew up in the Russians' face. It may have helped bring down the Soviet Union, but it's not like Russia became a better place afterwards, right? Putin, Afghanistan, right? The Russians leave, Putin takes over in the early 2000s. So there was like 10 years after Afghanistan that we were all hoping something good would happen in Russia. Nothing good happens, and then Putin takes over, and that's the end of that. So, it didn't, I mean, I don't know. It didn't help the first time, Thank you, Harold, for the hat. Alec is saying, I read an article today that talked about how Lukashenko, who's the dictator of Belarus, which is right northwest of Ukraine, is fearing for his life because of the, thank you, Al, for that December thingy, is fearing for his life because of the foreign minister being assassinated. Do you think he may be assassinated next? I mean, the issue is who killed the Belarusian foreign minister. The Belarusian foreign minister died. A lot of people think he was murdered, assassinated. A lot of people think Russia did it because the foreign minister was somebody who was basically one of the only top Belarusian officials who wasn't in bed with the Russians. He was independent, and the Russians didn't like that. So the thought is they killed him. Now, that doesn't really mean they're going to kill Lukashenko. It simply could be the Russians sending Lukashenko a message and saying, you know what? We can get any of you, or Lukashenko and all of his men, we can get any of you anytime we want, right? So it doesn't mean Lukashenko's in danger necessarily, but it is a threat that they're putting out there. Yeah. That one's wild. All right, guys, it's 6:01. I am going to call it quits. Today is Wednesday, so we got 2 more days of this week, 6 p.m. Eastern time. I've got Kukla sitting on my lap, and my back is killing me. Oh, boy, Kukla. Say hi to everybody. I know. Say hi. There you go. Okay. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. She's got such a little whine, too. She's kind of like, I'm moving her around, and she goes, all right, guys, thank you for joining me. I am going to go over to our Discord. We'll hang out for maybe 15 minutes over there. I'm not going to do the recap right now. It's too much trouble with the dog. Let me do that another time. Blue Sky, I think we're wondering if he was poisoned, is what it sounds like. Mom is in the kitchen preparing dinner. She's doing a Greek dinner that I don't love, but it's okay, called stifalo, which I call it boiled meat. It's not my fave. I mean, it's more than boiled meat, but it's, like the meat cooked in like wine and broth with possibly potatoes and onions and whatever. And it's just I'm not big on braised meat or whatever you call it. So, but it's good if you like that kind of thing. What can I say? She likes it, and it's free food, so I'm happy to get it. But in any case, guys, I'm going to go over to our Discord, discord.aravosis.com, and Mike talking about Mom, discord.aravosis.com. It will hang out for a little bit, and there you go. So join us if you like. Otherwise, come back tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, and we will do the news again. Oh, and definitely, as I said, go check out aravosis.com. Basically, it's the links in my profile on TikTok. Just go to the link tree there, the link in my profile, or you guys, aravosis.com. Thank you, dear Benji. And you'll find all of my links for the Discord, for my store. Remember, it says Black Friday sale that passed, so ignore the fact that it says the sale. Thank you, Alex, for the hat. And you'll find everything else there too. My Discord, my shop, you name it. So check it out. All right, guys, I'm going to hang up on you folks. Join me at the Discord.